is the biggest change to retail trading probably in the last 25 years, if not ever.
Good afternoon. I'm here with Troy McNeil from Options Omega and Scott Sheridan, no relation, but a friend. I've known him for a long time. And correct me if I'm going overboard here. Scott was the pioneer of PDT.
No, not the pioneer of
That's
PDT.
the
Don't say
killer
that.
of
That makes me
PDT.
the bad
The
guy.
killer of PDT.
I was the pioneer of eliminating the PDT
All right,
rule.
that's even
I
better.
had nothing to do with creating the rule.
All right, let's make that clear. Thanks for coming. I do appreciate it because I think it revolutionizes the business.
This is the biggest change to retail trading probably in the last 25 years, if not ever.
Wow.
If not ever. It's crazy. So let me just quickly say what PDT was. I could say was now. Yesterday I did a talk and I had to say still is because yesterday it still existed. Today it doesn't. But what PDT was, pattern day trading. So pattern day trading, if your securities account, it was important to understand, futures, crypto they were not included in this, which again, just part of the craziness of the rule. Securities, so stocks and equity options, index options also. If your account was under $25,000 at the start of the day, you were limited to 3 day trades in a rolling 5 business day period. What's a day trade? A day trade is when you open and close the same thing on the same day. So if you buy Apple stock today, you sell Apple stock today, day trade. If you sell an iron condor today, 4 legs, buy back the iron condor today, 1 day trade, as long as you did it as a package. That was not 4 day trades, that was 1. But the problem was that if you made your 3rd day trade and then you continue to trade, because you could trade, but then if you made your 4th day trade, you violated the PDT rule. The risk margin team for wherever the firm you were trading issued you what's called an EM, equity maintenance call. And that meant that your account, unless you had a reset, which I'll get into the reset, but unless you had a reset, you were done for some period of time, which I will get into.
Yeah.
And it was very restrictive for a majority of retail accounts are under $25,000. So what's a reset? FINRA, and I did start this charge. For sure. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm sure a lot of people will take credit for it, but I remember exactly where I was when I started this charge. So I got a phone call from somebody that I think you know, Paul, but he was at the time, he was working at one of the aggregators, but he was also the president of SIFMA, an industry organization.
Okay.
And I go back 100 years with Paul. We actually went to high school together, but our high school was so big we didn't know each other. So
really?
Yeah, but I knew Paul from the floor, and then he came over to Thinkorswim, and then he moved on. But anyway, nice guy, smart guy, knowledgeable guy. Calls me one day out of the blue. Haven't talked to him forever, and he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" Okay, so he said, "Just curious, what SIFMA can do for you?" I'd never heard of SIFMA. I'm like, you got to be a little more specific. I'm not even sure what you're offering me. I love when somebody asks me what they can do, but you got to tell me, what are you able to do?
What are you?
So he's let me rephrase this. This is 2018. What's your biggest customer pain point? I didn't hesitate. I said pattern day trading. I said no ifs, ands, or buts. He said, what is it? He didn't know. So I said, I explained to him what it was. He's, oh, interesting. He's all right. Let me go back to SIFMA. We have a meeting in a few weeks. Let me go back to the group, to the committee, see if I can get any support. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, what? So I said, okay, thanks for the call. And we hung up. And I remember saying to myself, I'm giving that slightly higher than 0 delta, just slightly higher than 0 delta. Okay. So anyway, he calls me a few weeks later and he said, we had the meeting. And while there was tremendous interest and support, nobody is willing to raise their hand to get involved because they're afraid or of their legal or compliance departments.
Wow.
So I said, wait a minute. You're telling me that you think that there's some path that you're aware of forward? I don't need your help. Just tell me where to go.
Right.
I'll figure this out. He's, you know what? Give me another month. They had a meeting, whatever, a month later. Give me another month. Let me go back and see if I can talk to convince anybody to do this. So I know you know JJ Kinahan. I'm assuming most people listening to this know JJ Kinahan. JJ Kinahan we've traded on the floor together.
Yeah.
in the OEX, the CBOE. And then he eventually came over to Thinkorswim. And then when Tom and I left Thinkorswim, he and Q ran Thinkorswim. And then ultimately we brought JJ over to Tasty. So we have a long history. But
Sure.
so in 2018, he was still at TD, Thinkorswim. And he said to me, you know what? I want to get involved with this fight with you. I said, amazing.
Wow.
Because
Wow.
I love JJ. And then JJ knows everybody. So he does all the things that I didn't like to do, which was go out, press the flesh with the regulators. And so I said, look, you're going to be great with this because you're going to know how to navigate if we have to go to Congress, which ultimately we did.
Wow.
So JJ gets involved, and let's spin it up over a couple of years. I'll fast forward. I think we got about 10, 12 firms involved with this, and people were super engaged. We're like, all right, let's do this. We put a great deck together, reach out to FINRA, submit it. It's the 4210 committee. That's who this is. That's the FINRA committee that covered this. So they invited us out to New York. We were in the FINRA offices in New York, and they said, our number one complaint from customers.
Wow.
So no ifs, ands, or buts. They said, we realize that it's a big problem, but we don't think it's under our purview. We don't think it's something that we can change. And we're looking at them like, well, if you can't change it, who's going to change it? They said the SEC. So we all get on a plane. A couple weeks later, go to the SEC. The SEC, there's 10, 12 of us with the SEC, and they look at us and go, nice seeing you guys. Not sure why you're here. This is a FINRA issue. This is pure regulatory bullshit where it's just back and forth. Nobody wants to take ownership. Not my problem. You go deal with this. So we were ready to go back to FINRA, and unfortunately, literally in a couple of days, COVID.
No. Wow.
So everything gets locked down. I looked at JJ. I'm like, oh my God, we had traction. We had a path forward, and now we have COVID. Then worse than COVID, which was for this, not that it was overall worse than COVID, but worse than COVID was during COVID, we had the meme stock craze.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
So I said to JJ, I remember talking to him one day, I said, we're dead on this PDT issue because they're just going to look and go, we just went through that. And you're telling us that you want us to ease the restrictions and let people trade more?
He's crazy.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So as optimistic as I was and as much effort as we put into this, I said to JJ, this one might be dead. Let's let it sit for a little bit, and then maybe we'll revisit. So now let me come back to what I talked about, a reset, because it's important to understand this. And anybody watching this whose account was under $25,000 probably is well aware of what I'm going to say. But FINRA, true for most regulatory bodies, there's a lot of gray area, room for interpretation in the rules. So they'll say this, and then it's whether your legal compliance team says, we think it's this or we think it's this. Somebody might operate a little bit differently. So that might be why one firm did it a little differently than another firm, which our clearing firm for Tasty was Apex. Apex had a liberal interpretation of the rule. Interactive Brokers had a liberal interpretation of the rule. I'm sure you will be shocked by this. Schwab, Fidelity, E-Trade, Ameritrade had a more conservative interpretation of the rule.
Yeah.
So what that meant was Apex and IB said, look, if you violate, you get your reset. If you violate the reset, then you have to wait 3 months.
Wow.
Whereas the other firms that I mentioned, a year.
A year. Okay.
A year. Now, you can get out of the equity maintenance call immediately if you got your account back over $25,000, but most people don't have extra cash lying around that they could just throw into their account. Okay, now that was bad, but it got significantly worse about, I'm losing track of time, I'm going to say 3 years ago, probably about 3 years ago, it got significantly worse. And this is when I said to JJ, we got to fire up the machine again, and we did. What happened was FINRA, they say that what they did was they changed the enforcement of the rule. They said they didn't change the rule. I'm calling massive BS. They changed the rule.
Okay.
What the rule then became, this is insane. And when I tell people, they look at me and they're like, they're not sure. And I'll give you an analogy. And they look at me and they go, how's that legal? Yeah. So I said, exactly. So what they did was, you got one reset. I don't know, it could be 3 months, it could be a year, whatever the interpretation was of the clearing firm, they have no problem with that. You get one reset for your life.
No, your life.
or your life. And people look at me and they're like, I don't know what that means. I said, okay, let me put it this way. I live in Chicago, so I have an Illinois driver's license.
Yeah,
Let's say that I'm driving home today and I roll through a stop sign, policeman pulls me over and gives me a ticket. That's my warning. I get my reset. Let's say tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, 5 years from now, I get a speeding ticket.
you're done.
For the rest of my life, I can no longer drive in the state of Illinois.
That's a great analogy. That's a great analogy.
And people look at me and they say, no, Scott, that can't be. How is that legal? And I said, we can't, because we were members. You can't sue a regulatory body because you're a member. So, retail, somebody on the retail side probably could, but we couldn't. I would have, but we couldn't.
Yeah.
So I said, exactly, that's why we are fighting this fight. So I could choose to move states. I could move to Indiana. I could move to Ohio, but that's time. It's expensive. I don't want to do it. My family doesn't want to do it.
Right.
I could violate the rule at Tasty and then open an account at Schwab, violate the rule there, get shut down for life, go to Robinhood, go to Fidelity, go to IB. You could see where this goes. Eventually, you run out of places to trade, and it's a pain in the butt to move your account, to learn the new platform on short notice. Like, I would think most people have accounts at multiple firms. Good to have backup, good to have redundancy. And you're probably familiar with, maybe a little more intimately familiar with one platform or another, but you know how to use it. All of a sudden, you're kicked to the curb because of some insane rule. Yeah. You now have to go out and learn a brand new platform. And you're missing out on all the opportunities to trade because it takes about a week to move your account. So I said to JJ, let's go. Now we got this up to about 50 people supported. That's when I say people. It was retail firms, it was exchanges, it was market making firms, it was clearing firms. We ran the gamut. Yeah. And I want to give a shout out to FINRA, which is rare for me to say, but they got it right. Now, it took a long time, but once I saw I don't remember the person who they put in charge. Good guy, smart guy, reasonable guy, fair guy. And once I saw the original path he was going, I remember turning to Chris, who runs the risk margins team for Tasty. He was helping me with this. And I said to him, we're going to get this done. I said, this is awesome. I could just see the way, because you could tell by the questions somebody's asking whether they want to do it or they don't want to do it. Because you could find a reason to do something. You could find a reason not to do something. And this was one. I said, we're going to get this done. So we knew it was mid-September of last year that it was basically done, but then they had to go for a comment period, and then they had that's why it's happening today. It's because things in the regulatory world don't just flip a switch and what happens overnight. So funny story is I had said for years, if this ever goes through, and back then I'm like, I'm trying and I'm really good and I can be persuasive, but I'm walking up a big mountain here. But I said, if this ever actually does get through and it's the end of the PDT, I said, I think that's my mic drop moment. Wow. And Tom and I were, the day that Tom and I were telling the whole Tasty team that we were leaving, I had found out literally a day before and I said, oh my God, the timing is spot on perfect. So we're having a meeting. People are like, what's the meeting about? We're like, oh, we're telling a story. And I was telling the PDT story, and people are like, okay, that's great. And I said, so I always said, this is my mic drop moment. And I went, boom. I said, I'm done. I said, we're leaving. And people were looking at me like, wait, whoa, no, you guys can't leave. So that's how the message got out to the Tasty team that we were going to be moving on from Tasty. But this rule, and if people don't understand the significance of this, I'm going to put this, actually, if you go on Lost Dog, if you go to our YouTube channel, I did about a 2-minute video. It was a really good video. And I just kind of gave some, why does this matter? But I'll try to hit some of the same points, hopefully all of them. Yeah. But the reason this matters, and the first thing I want to say, this does not mean that you need to trade more. You don't need to trade more. You don't. So don't think, oh, okay, now I got to trade 5 times a day or 10 times a day. Not at all. Yeah. What this means is that you can trade more. This means you can make a trade if you want to make a trade without thinking like, oh my God, if I open this today, I can't close it because I have 3-day trades in the last 5 days and my account will get shut down. Yeah. So this is one of these, and I compare it to portfolio margin. My guess is some of your students have portfolio margin.
Yeah.
People would ask me, should I or should I not get it? And I said, look, here's my simple answer. If you have the money to put in the account because it's a higher account value, I said, if you have the money, why would you not want to do it? Why would you not want portfolio margin? You never have to use it. But I say to my kids, I'm like, look, couple things. One, control what you can control because you're going to have to deal with things out of your control. They're going to take a lot of your bandwidth. And then two, have as many tools in your toolbox that you could possibly have because you just don't know when you're going to need one. You might never use that tool, but the one time that you need it, you're going to say, I am really happy that I have access to it.
That's right. Yeah.
So here, this does not give you the ability to take more leverage. It does not give you the ability to take more risk. So I don't want somebody sending me an email going, hey, what the hell? I thought you said I could do whatever I want to do. You could do whatever you want to do with the money in your account that the firm allows you to do. But what this does, the whole issue, the shackles that every account had that was under $25 are broken. They're gone. That's it.
Yeah. That is now, can you, I'm sure by firm to firm, maybe a little bit just a little bit I read in anticipation of talking with you that as far as the rollout period for this, in terms of, is there a minimum account? Can someone trade $3,000 in the account
so you're going to need, I would tell everybody talk to their firm because I'm not aware of what every firm is doing. So at a base level, remember, there are exchange requirements, there are OCC requirements, there's stock exchange requirements, there's CBO. So there's requirements for everything. So that's where the margin requirements come from. Yeah. Clearing firms can choose to elevate those requirements. And then brokerage firms could say, we want them even higher. So I'm going to tell you with Tasty, which I think, but again, I'm gone. So you might have to reach out to them. My understanding is that the rule is that you need $2,000 in your account to cover this. And the way that they came up with $2,000 is that's what you need in your account to be able to buy stock on margin. If you're under $2,000, so if you have $1,000 in your account, you have to pay for your stock fully paid for. You can't go out and buy more Apple stock than $1,000 if that's all you have. Whereas if you have $2,500, you could buy $5,000 because you're borrowing the other $2,500. So I think you need $2,000.
And so with $2,000, you could do a call vertical debit spread if you wanted to.
You could do that with $100 or $200.
Oh, you're right.
So long as you had the money to pay for it, or if you want to do a credit spread, so long as you have the money to cover the margin, that you don't need. You could do that with 500, whatever. You just have to have the money to cover that. Wow. So what the difference will be is that, again, because if you look at how many accounts in the retail world fall into the 25,000 and under, it's a huge number. Now you've taken that down to $2,000. I'm not minimizing $2,000, but it was what we had to surrender when they came up with that. We're like, okay, 2,000 is way better, because they were like, maybe we raise it or maybe we lower it. I'm like, don't raise it, even if you lower it. So if you go to $10,000, how does that help? Just get rid of the rule. You're admitting the rule is no good. Yeah. So at this point, you say, okay, when they said $2,000, I remember turning to look to Chris. I'm like, all right, listen, that's a huge win. The other one that effectively goes away today, and this is much more complicated, I'm not going to spend any time on it, but the day trade call. There's no more day trade calls.
That's right. So
which is amazing. So a day trade call would be issued. They're expensive. So a day trade call used to be when you traded on proceeds. So if you made a profit, if you came in with $10,000 in your account, came in with $50,000 in your account, you had a great trade on, you made $10,000, you clear everything out, and you day traded on the 60. So that $10,000 extra, if you day traded on that, you're not allowed to do that. That generates what's called a day trade call. You could day trade on the 50. You could liquidate that and keep trading. But if you day traded on profits, that generated the call. Those are gone. And the day trade call
that existed.
Yeah, and the day trade calls, it's really confusing, and I don't want to get into it because they're gone, but they would build. So if you had one and then you did it again, they keep building, and the only way to really meet what used to be meet a day trade call was to put money in the account. But day trade calls are gone, and that was an amazing byproduct. We weren't even going for that, but they're like, let's just get rid of those too. I'm like, beautiful. Okay.
It's interesting because you get these guys with $3,000-$4,000 in their account and they're just starting. Maybe they put a call debit spread on or something like that.
Yep.
How many calls would you guys get on the desk?
A bazillion.
they'd sit there and be like, this is my third, but
Yeah.
I want to take profit, or I want to take
Yeah.
the stop loss or whatever.
So Troy, what's interesting, the person that was representing E-Trade at the meeting in FINRA's office, it was a Monday or Tuesday, expiration just happened on Friday. And he said they had a $10,000 account that had made 3 day trades. They had bought some calls in Tesla, and Tesla exploded. They were up $3,000 on a $10,000 account. They're up $3,000. So $3,000 is a great trade for any account, but
Yeah.
a $10,000 account, it's an amazing trade.
Right.
I'm not making this up. They called E-Trade risk, the trade desk, risk department, whatever, said, listen, can you please take this out of my account? I'll just give it to you because I can't get out and I don't want the risk over the weekend.
Oh my goodness.
And my account's going to be closed. And I'm looking at the guy that runs the 4210 committee for FINRA, and he's like, that's not good. And I'm
That's
like,
not good.
yeah, that's not good. So, Trey, the answer is we would get questions all the time. What can we do? And what we would do, for example, if it was close to the close, we would put a stock trade on. So if somebody bought a call that was in the money, we'd sell stock, and it wasn't counted as a day trade. But what firm is going to do that?
No one.
Nobody's
Right.
going to do that.
Yeah.
Nobody would do that, but that's the way we treated our customers.
Sure. Hey, Scott, let me do my one Barbara Walters question. As we look at this, because I do believe this will be revolutionary in the options, and you could look at a year from now and, and someone take a guess, Scott, take a guess, what impact will, if you could just some kind of tangible thing that this will happen as a result of this. Do you see the options, maybe how much it will affect the volume, or where do you see it a year from now?
What this is going to do, and it's a year is a good number. It's going to take a while because a lot of people aren't even aware. I know Tasty has sent out a bunch of emails. I'm sure other firms have sent out emails as well. But remember, the legacy firms are so concerned about saying anything to anybody. They're not going to go out and tell you to trade more because then they're going to say they might sue us because we said that we could trade more. That's why I started by saying you don't have to trade more. You can trade more.
Right.
And that's the key. So what is this going to do? What do I think this is going to do? You're going to now see, and I am sure you have people out there that say, I'm a one-lot trader. How am I going to change the market? Okay, I trade 50 shares of stock or 10 shares or 20 shares or 100 shares, whatever it is. How does that, when you have a stock that's trading 20 million shares, 10 million shares a day, how does 100 shares? Scott, you're crazy. What's that going to do? I will then redirect that conversation and say, let's go back to GameStop. You want to tell me that retail has no power over the market? Because GameStop went from 5 to 500, and that was retail.
Well,
that was pure retail. If you ask me right now, what's going on in the tech world, you look at Micron, and I've been short it and getting destroyed. Micron went from 500 to 1,000 in 6 weeks. It's 6 weeks. And people go, oh my God, it's amazing. I'm like, yeah, it's amazing if you're long, but you better be careful here because that stock could be down $200-300 in a day.
Easy. Yeah.
Easy. So I believe that there's nothing wrong with this. It's the power of social. It's not only is there nothing wrong with it, I think it's great that you have retail getting engaged and saying, I want to know what other people are doing. And they get on the boards, they go, oh, today it's Micron. Let's all go buy Micron.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now, if that's how you want to trade, you're making money doing it, great. Just understand that when the music stops, that door slams shut so fast that you might think you have a way to get out and you might not be able to. So just be careful.
As someone who has puts on semiconductors, I share that. And I hope the music stops immediately. But yeah.
And the problem is we'll all be out of our shorts and then it's going to happen and we're going to go like this, hold the nose, go like this. Like, I can't believe I missed it by a day, a week, a month, whatever. In my mind, that's coming. But so let's go back to say what could happen here. You now have the ability, and I am not one to promote day trading options, but how about stock? Day trading stock now is in play. So one of the arguments and the reason that and I actually missed this, and I apologize. So let's go back to the beginning. Where did the PDT rule come from? The PDT rule came from, the three of us are old enough. My guess is a lot of your customers are not. That before the dot-com bubble, so in the late 90s, there were stock trading rooms, strip malls all around the country that you could go into, say, here's 10 grand. and they'd give you 100 or 200 to trade with. Now, if you lost the 10 grand, you were done.
Right.
But the regulators looked at this and said, wait a minute, you got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 people in here, and you're giving each of them 90 grand.
Yeah.
We get that if they lose the 10, they're done. But what if they're all in the same stock and the stock closes and it goes to zero? You don't, what the clearing firm doesn't have them. Who's going to cover all this? That was the genesis. That's where the PDT rule came from.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because they said, unless you have 25 grand in your account, you're not making more than 3-day trades in a rolling 5 business day period. The other argument that the regulators leaned on was there was a Senate subcommittee that did a study, I think in the 80s.
Yeah.
And they said commissions eat so far into your profits, you can't make money trading small size frequently. Okay. I'm not kidding. FINRA was still leaning on that about 5 years ago. And I said, commissions have basically gone to zero. So I said, you are aware you could trade stock for free basically anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. So now your question is, what's this going to be in a year? There's no, when I say no cost, you have some regulatory fees, but there's no commissions to trading stock. If somebody wanted to, not telling you to go do this, but if somebody wanted to, they could sit at their computer for a half a day, whatever, sit there and just scalp stock.
That's right. That's right.
You could just sit there and trade stock all day long.
So this PDT came about as from stock, not an option thing.
Correct. It was a stock thing.
Being early on, this is 10, 12 years ago, I was new to options and didn't have any money. I was just a software developer. And I would look at this and I thought to myself, what it actually caused is I started trading ES options because you could trade ES options all day long, in and out. And I was at Tasty. But that was stupid. I shouldn't have been doing that.
And those didn't fall into the PDT rule. But yes.
And that's the madness of it, is I think it forced a lot of people who could have been safer to choose instruments if they really wanted to get serious about option trading. It actually forced them to be more dangerous.
So Troy, to that point, somebody asked me, is there any loser here? And I said, yeah. And I said, I'm not sure that they're aware that they're a loser, but the CME. So there were so many people that moved to ES or NQ options because their account was under 25 grand. They wanted a day trade and they couldn't. So to your point, they went over and started trading those as opposed to being able to trade SPY. And it's really? So, the options business for the CME exploded over the last 5+ years. And Tasty was a large reason for that. We were big promoters of it. And they're great products. I'm not picking on the products.
Sure.
They're great products. But to me, it's not a substitute. You shouldn't be forced, as you just said, you shouldn't be forced to have to go trade those products because your hands are tied, you have the shackles on, and you can't trade SPY or Qs.
Yep.
Well, and how many people probably lost and didn't come back because they were forced to trade?
A lot.
You think a
lot.
Big number?
Yeah.
So, well, Scott, I appreciate, honestly could go on for a couple hours, but I know I want to respect everybody's time. But I just want to say personally, thank you for, and I've said this to you guys before, but just being just in the education end of it, I always tell people, I'm so thankful because you guys were bringing them in. It was wonderful because we didn't have to convince people to trade. You and Tom were doing that, and you really helped the business. So I appreciate it, and it was just a joy getting to know you guys. I just miss you dearly because it's not like that anymore. One last thing, can you give us a quick update on Lost Dog and what's going on over there, and what do you guys
Sure. Yeah, it's awesome. We've made a hard pivot, and the stuff that we're rolling out, we have a new user interface coming out the week after next. It's awesome. So it started out, for those that don't know what Lost Dog is, it's a platform that Tom and I are building. It's a massive challenge, but we're trying to tackle income inequality in this country. And where this came from was Tom wanted to hire somebody, and our talent acquisition team at Tasty said, how much can I offer him? And they said, I don't know, try 60,000. And he looked at him and said, he's getting his PhD in AI. I'm not offering him 60,000. They said, okay, try 100. And he looked at him and said, is this what we do? Is this the way businesses operate? You just throw a number out and hope. So what we have done is we have built an amazing AI model that leverages millions of data points, tons of government, Bureau of Labor and Statistics, a lot of those data points, a lot of information from there. you upload your resume and we will tell you your financial worth. We don't say it's a range of 60 to 100,000. We are going to give you a number and say, this is what you're worth. We are not a job site. We're not a coaching team. We're not here to coach. Now, having said that, Tom and I do a show called One Lucky Dog, 9 to 10 Central Time. We take phone calls, we take emails, we take chats. It's on YouTube. You could come to us. And the show is about every day. It's about trading and it's about career. So what we are trying to do, the average CEO, S&P 500 CEO in the 80s and 90s was about 20 times, their comp was 20 times that of the average employee. Last year, the SPX, the S&P 500, 650 times.
Oh my goodness.
Starbucks, got to call out Starbucks. I don't like Starbucks. 6,600 times. That's wrong. That's wrong. So the average person leaves about $3 million, $3.5 million on the table over their career, not just in salary, but what you could do if you had some extra salary from investing and doing other things that will then help with your retirement. We're trying to help people to go out and try to see some of that. On top of that, we have launched a piece of technology that if you upload your portfolio, you can import it from wherever you're trading. We're not a trading firm, but you can upload your portfolio and we will scan it for you and give you some suggestions as to how you can enhance return.
How cool is that?
Right?
So someone could give you maybe their last trades or their whatever.
You can upload whatever you have, and then we're going to give you some suggestions. Now, if you tell us, hey, I've got an iron condor on that's not what this is going to do. But you have a bunch of stocks and you got some of this, and we could say, here's some things that you could consider doing. Our AI model, we don't personally go through and look at it. This is all done through AI. Yeah. On top of that, we have something called Nostradamus, which is great instead of Nostradamus. So it's prediction. And then we have a trade finder as well. So it's going to come up using AI. You could plug in some information, say, what would you recommend? What portfolio would you put together? So it's super cool stuff, all leveraging AI. Wow. And we're having fun with it. We got a lot of ideas for the next 12 months. We'll see how many of them we can actually get into production. But we've got a really talented team and we're having fun with it. So that's the best part. But check out the show. If you haven't seen the show, check out the show.
All right. And
one lucky dog.
Monday through Friday?
Monday through Thursday. We do 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. We think in about the next 3 to 6 months, we're going to add some more content throughout the day. Okay. We're not going to go to a tasty live model, which is 12 hours a day. We're not interested in doing that. Sure. But we will probably add some more content over, again, probably the next 3 to 6 months. So it's cool. You were in our studio. It's a cool stage.
It was one of the coolest places I've ever been in my life.
Yeah, it's cool. And what Tom and I like to say is, listen, at this point in our career, we've had a lot of success. Yeah. And at this point in our career, let's go have some fun. And not that we haven't had fun doing the other things, but the other things we did, there was a lot of unknown. If this doesn't work, what are we going to do? We're not getting paid. We're not getting paid here either. But we're okay. We're going to be okay if this doesn't work, but it's going to work. And it's just, we're having a lot of fun with it. We just got to get the word out. We got to spread the word. But the feedback's been unbelievable. The new user interface is awesome. And part of the launch of this, we're giving away $1 million in crypto for real.
I saw that. That is so. Yeah. So when you're saying in a week, the new interface?
A week after next. The new user interface will be out, but the first 50,000 people, I think, that sign up will get some crypto. So it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and one other that I'm drawing a blank to.
That's awesome.
But it's Stellar. Stellar's the other one. But it's awesome. And then people go, what do I do with this? Well, you know what? It's engagement. Now you have a position on. Now, guess what? You've never traded before. You've never had a position on. It's our money. Don't worry about it. And it doesn't have to be a lot of money. Now you're thinking. And they're like, what does that matter? Guess what? Now that you're thinking about it, you're going to be more engaged with it. It's a thought process. It teaches you, trading teaches you life lessons, period.
Right.
For sure.
Scott, it's so, I'll tell you what really has stood out here is all the years you've been trading, you're not enthusiastic anymore about any of this. You're just really down and out. I mean, that's what gets me, you got me fired up here. And it is such a fascinating business. And I think we're all fortunate that many times at the CBOE, it was like, when I talk risk management, I'll say the main reason retail customers have choice. So there's no one, we had accountability to either our backer or to our in the pits. But my biggest motivation was I knew this was a special job. Not that it was making a ton of money every year or whatever, but the fact that once you've worked at the CBOE for a couple of years, to go get a real job, number one, you didn't want to, but number two, I didn't think there was anything I was qualified to, it's what am I going to do? I'm sure a lot of us felt that way, right?
I would tell people that I felt like I got to go, my job was to go play a game.
Oh, yes.
I got to go play a game every day. That's what I got to do.
That's why people love hearing the history of it. It's because you
Yeah.
guys were just having a bunch of fun.
Yeah, I got to play a game, and here we are. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer. My email is Scott@Loss. That's LOSS, Lost Dog. Scott@lostdog.com. I'm always happy to answer emails. And to Troy and to Dan, I'm more than happy to come on and do this with you guys. It's a pleasure speaking with you.